Welcome back to the All Ball Podcast, where it's all ball all the time. You are here with your hosts, Isaiah and Sean. I usually would ask Isaiah what's his thoughts about what's going on around the league today, but there's not much going on around the league today. So we're going to go ahead and start the podcast off with the debate of Donovan Mitchell and Jayson Tatum. So, Isaiah, go ahead and give your thoughts about that.
Okay, before I get into my thoughts, I want to explain how we got to this debate.
Okay.
The day after the previous episode went up, I was scrolling on YouTube and saw a community poll that had Jayson Tatum against Donovan Mitchell. I didn't think much of it. I thought the answer was obvious. I picked Jayson Tatum. Tatum was winning the poll pretty clearly. It was 67 to 33%, so fairly clear win. But then I go into the comments, and it's full of people defending Donovan Mitchell as if there's an actual debate that he's better than Tatum, and I really didn't understand it. So I just want to bring up a few key points that these people were making that were just clearly wrong. So first, let's start. They were saying that Mitchell is a better scorer. Now, Donovan Mitchell is obviously a really good scorer. It's what he's best at. It's really the only thing he does exceptionally well. But at the same time, Jayson Tatum is Jayson Tatum. He's he's definitely a better inside the arc scorer. And he's also a better shooter, without a doubt. This was a down year for Tatum, and he still shot a comparable percentage to Donovan Mitchell from three. In 2 previous seasons, he has shot over 40% from three, whereas this was Donovan Mitchell's best season from three. So I don't understand how anybody can even make the scoring debate, especially with this past season where, like I said, it was more of a down year because Tatum was a little inconsistent due to battling COVID. But even still, he had 3 50-point games, one of which was a 60-point game, and he dropped 50 points on the Nets in the playoffs to get his team at least one win in that series. And the funniest part about that game is that there was one comment that went out of its way to say that Tatum is not dropping 50 bombs in the playoffs like Mitchell, which just goes to show how some people really just don't watch basketball but like to make points.
So, one of the points that I want to bring is because I agree with you that I think Jayson Tatum is not there's not like a huge gap, but there's a how could I put it? It's a big enough gap to where you understand that there's a good difference between them.
Okay.
And one of the things that I want to bring up is that obviously last year the Jazz made it to, obviously the Jazz got the number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, Jayson Tatum's had more playoff success. Jayson Tatum has taken his team at least to the Eastern Conference Finals, where Donovan Mitchell has struggled to even get out of the second round. I know the Rockets have eliminated him, I believe, twice. Last year they got beat by the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think playoff success.
They got beat by the Clippers, this past year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think playoff success plays actually a big role in this debate.
You see, and it's funny that you brought up playoff success because there were also people claiming that Mitchell had better playoff success than Tatum, which is obviously wrong, considering that Tatum, as a rookie, led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals and nearly to the finals if, LeBron didn't happen. But what can you do about that? It's LeBron.
Yeah, or if, I don't know if he doesn't hit that shot in the bubble.
You see, it's like there's just so many instances where the Celtics were just they were right there on the cusp of really doing something just great. Well, granted, the Celtics did still make the Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble because they went against the Heat, despite
Mhm.
that game. But still, there's just a lot of minor events that led to Celtics losses in the playoffs or just unfortunate circumstances that you can't control, aka going up against LeBron in a game 7, whereas the Jazz haven't even made it that far.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Wait, I'm tripping. I thought the OG Anunoby shot was the one that sent it home. I'm thinking about the block in the bubble. The
Yeah, the
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 was it
Bam.
Bam?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm tripping. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I don't know why I brought the OG Anunoby shot up.
Yeah,
But
that Bam block, it was going to be a game-winning dunk. So that Bam block really hurt the Celtics that series. I don't remember exactly if it sent them home, but I know it was a critical loss for sure.
yeah, I think that was the game game 7, wasn't it?
I don't think did that series go to 7?
Uh, I don't remember. Um
I don't either. Let me see. No, that game went to 6. I mean, that
okay.
series went to 6.
Okay. Well, then I think yeah, that happened in game 6.
Okay.
But we do have a comment from the last video from Drew Bucket. Shout out to you. He says, "Who are you replacing Mitchell with that could score like him?" Isaiah, you want to talk about that?
Okay. So, first and foremost, all of the players who I think are better scorers than Mitchell, I immediately believe you can put them in Mitchell's spot. So Bradley Beals, Trey Youngs, Devin Booker, Zach Levine, Kyrie, any of those people, and then obviously your top 10 level guys for sure. So any of them go in that spot, and they're immediately replacing Donovan Mitchell scoring pretty effortlessly. But if I wanted to get controversial with it, maybe D'Angelo Russell. I don't know. I don't know. It could happen because D'Angelo Russell has definitely proven that when given the keys to an offense, he can make amazing things happen, as we saw with the Nets.
Hmm.
Yeah, the only reason he had issues doing so with the Timberwolves and the Warriors is because he had to deal with injuries and an injured roster too. And then on the Timberwolves, on top of those two things, he had a pretty incompetent coach as well. So there's a lot of factors that go into why D'Angelo Russell has had a down 2 seasons now. But like I said, during his time with the Nets, he's proven that given that opportunity, he can be a leading scorer on a playoff team.
Yeah, like you said, I think there's a lot of players out there that, well, okay, I wouldn't say a lot. I would say a pretty good handful of players that if you take Donovan Mitchell off the Jazz and replace them with, whoever, or that handful of players, I think they're still going to be in the same spot, especially because if you add a player like, let's say, Paul George, you know, who finally showed that he could be a real playoff contributor this year,
Hmm.
also adds defense to an already defensive style team. I think that would even
Exactly.
push them further when Paul George can already score, I think, just as well as Donovan Mitchell can.
Oh, yes, absolutely agree. Paul George absolutely can score just as well. Matter of fact, despite all the playoff jokes, he is a better shooter than Donovan Mitchell. So there's really not much debate there that Paul George can and will go out and get buckets for you.
Yeah, I think even a guy like Trey Young, who obviously is known for his terrible defense, can still probably fit better into the Jazz than Donovan Mitchell does just because he's a better scorer.
Exactly. And on top of his better scoring, he's also a better playmaker, which is another important piece to offense. Whereas Donovan Mitchell is a slightly above average playmaker at best. I
Mm.
personally don't even have him ranked that highly in the playmaking department. So, really, playmaking is pretty negligible from him.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't have him high in the playmaking tier either. I think that's why uh, Mike Conley has been able to kind of take over that role in Utah and kind of hold that down for Donovan Mitchell while Donovan Mitchell just scores his points. And then obviously Rudy Gobert holds it down on the defensive side. I think you could just see the complete team build there.
Exactly. And that's also why they had similar success with Ricky Rubio as well, because Donovan Mitchell he doesn't have that playmaking just built into him. He has to go out of his way to be a playmaker when he has to.
Do you think Ricky Rubio is underrated? I've always thought Ricky Rubio was like slightly underrated.
Yeah, I think Ricky Rubio is pretty underrated. A lot of people, they don't give him enough credit because a lot of the times the teams that he's been on haven't been able to do much, like when he was on the Suns and such.
Hmm.
But I don't think that's necessarily fair to him because you're asking way more out of him than what he is. I mean, we saw it this year in the Olympics. Ricky Rubio is a good basketball player. Anybody who thinks he's not good is just, they're out of their mind. He's an elite playmaker. He plays good defense. And while he's not a scorer by any means, he can score if need be.
Yeah, I think that he could be a little bit more aggressive. Not saying like that what he's not doing now is good. I think that he's always been a guy that's always understood his role and always
Mhm.
accepted it. But I believe that if a team asked him to just do a little bit more, I think he could step up and play that role too.
Yeah, I think part of that comes from the fact that he's been playing pro ball for so long. You know, he
Hmm.
started in his teens, similar to guys like Luca. So that sort of getting into the game, playing with people older than you, who more experienced than you, it kind of warps your play style around them.
Right.
And so because of that, he's gotten used to being like that for his entire basketball career.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that his maturity was already advanced enough when he came into the NBA that he knew that, okay, I might not be the best player on the team, but I could contribute in a way that, how could I put it, that my role will be effective enough to really help the team.
Exactly, exactly. He knows how to play winning basketball, even if it doesn't actually lead to wins for whatever reason. But he knows how to do what he needs to do to be most effective to the team. And really, you can't ask for more out of a guy like Ricky Rubio.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the question or the comment asking if we were to replace Donovan Mitchell. I want to flip that question and ask, what if we were to take Jayson Tatum off the Celtics? Who do you think we could replace him with, or is he even replaceable?
You see, Tatum has made such significant improvement throughout the years of his career. It's kind of hard for me to say who you could like truly replace him with that would give equal contribution that isn't obvious, like Luca, LeBron, those kinds of players.
Hmm.
But I think because he provides really good size, so that's versatile defense guarding some twos and then threes and fours. And then his isolation scoring ability, his catch and shoot scoring ability, and his increased free throw rate. You could really only replace him with maybe a Paul George, if I'm talking about guys who I think are lower than him. But
Hmm.
you could only replace him with maybe a Paul George, a Chris Middleton, maybe. Mm, I
I
think
don't even
those are,
think Chris Middleton gets it done either. I
yeah,
don't.
and that I think that's really a stretch too, because Middleton, while he is a good defender, I'm not sure how effective he would be compared to Tatum defensively.
Hmm. Yeah, you see, for me, like when you hit it right on like the mark when you said that his height can bring a lot of versatile defense. I think if you want to receive like the same efficiency from both defense and offense, you'd have to probably bring in a guy like Kawhi. I think to even match it. I mean, I'm not saying Jason Tatum's as good as Kawhi right now,
Hmm.
but I think they have, okay, I wouldn't say similar game, but
But they're similar. They're similarly effective in the same
right,
areas.
right, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas you get good scoring, catch and shoot wise, and isolation wise out of the both of them. You
Hmm.
get good defense at multiple positions out of the both of them.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Well, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying, okay, I can see what the point you were making.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to go ahead and let's move on to the since we're talking about ranking players, I guess you could say you want to move on to our top 25 list as of right now.
Yes, because that is the perfect topic to jump to after just pretty much talking about all of the various upsides and downsides to players. So let's just go through and rank who we think are the 25 best.
All right. You want to go first, or I go first?
I think we should do the back and forth. I start with my 25, you start with your 25. So,
Okay. All right. I'm
my,
gonna write yours down. So.
okay. So, my number 25 is the legend himself, Ben Simmons.
Okay. I like the legend himself. I like that.
New nickname
The
alert.
Yeah. I don't think that'll stick for long. But okay. So before I start with my 25, I want to give just two honor mentions. I won't talk about them, but I'm gonna say Westbrook and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is my
Mhm.
top two honorable mentions. And then there's a guy that I didn't put in my top 25, but I think he could. I just don't know how he's gonna fit in because of injuries. Is Klay Thompson? That's
Okay.
so. If you don't hear those three names, that's why.
Okay. So, yeah, for my 25, I do want to say that for one, this is based off of last season. So while I will be factoring in injuries, I'm not going to include players who just didn't play last season. And
Mhm.
I'm also not going to just completely derank people if they were injured this past season, but
Okay.
rather it's going to be based off of if they were healthy, but I still will take into account how much of an injury risk they have.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, the things that I value most are one, scoring efficiency, two, defense, and number three, versatility. So, players who can give you more on the court than just their one assigned role.
Okay. I respect that. Yeah.
But with said versatility comes my final asterisk, and it's that I do not value rebounding from non big man players.
Okay.
Yeah, so just because Westbrook and Harden and Luca can go out there and get 20 rebounds if they want to, I don't care about that.
Yeah, I understand. I get you. Yep. Efficiency is a lot more important.
Yeah,
Okay, so for number 25, you had Ben Simmons, right?
yes.
All right. So my number 25 is going to be Jaylen Brown.
Okay, that's a
I think.
respectable one.
Are we going in depth about these guys or no? Not really.
I mean, we can wait until we get into something that's just really needs to be elaborated on, but
Okay.
we don't have to go in depth for every single one.
All right. Cool. 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 All right. Go ahead and give me your number 24 then.
My number 24 is another controversial one and a funny one considering who my 25 is. It's Mr. Donovan Mitchell himself.
Okay.
Yes, the one who should have won Rookie of the Year. Let me stop.
No, I think you were probably right. All right. Well, my 24 is, uh, I guess his counterpart on his team, Rudy Gobert.
Wow. Would you look at how that ended up?
Man, you know I'm not gonna put Rudy Gobert above Donovan Mitchell after last episode. Come on now. I ain't gonna let you have that argument still. Mm-mm.
Hey man, it's like I said, I value scoring efficiency, defense, and versatility. Donovan Mitchell is an average efficiency scorer despite his volume, which is what most people like to fawn over when they look at his scoring ability. Defense, he's pretty negligible, not a positive or a negative really. But when you do really look at it, he's closer to the negative than positive. And in terms of versatility, like we were talking about when we were comparing him to Tatum, not much of a playmaker. He definitely doesn't have the size to do any sort of defensive versatility either. So yeah, I can't put him above a lot of these other guys because of that.
Okay, well at least for your sake, I don't have Donovan Mitchell too much higher than Rudy Gobert.
Okay, that's reasonable. I don't
But
have Gobert too much higher than Mitchell either.
okay, so all right, 23.
All right, for my number 23, I have De'Aaron Fox.
Okay. All right, for my number 23, I have Julius Randle.
Okay, okay. So how did you come about that one over Rudy Gobert?
So here's what I thought.
Okay.
I thought his All-Star season was pretty great. I know that he was absolutely terrible in the playoffs.
hmm
But also remember, so was RJ Barrett. You got to
hmm
think that these young guys are the first time playing in the playoffs, and then they're also playing in Madison Square Garden. I think they might have had some nerves. I think they probably should have been able to shake it off after the first couple of games, but I'll just say that the playoff run was a fluke. Their
Okay.
failure of a playoff run was a fluke, and I think Julius Randle's All-Star season was, good enough to finally get the Knicks back into the playoffs. So that's my case right there.
Okay. I that's fair. That's fair.
So number 22.
Okay. For number 22, I have Zion Williamson.
Okay.
Do you want to get in your 22 first, or you want me to explain first?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So for my explanation for why I have Zion at 22, it's simply because he is extremely efficient scoring the ball. That's
Mhm.
without a doubt one of the most efficient scorers in the league. But defensively, while he has improved from last season, I still don't think that he's much of a like true defensive presence yet.
Yeah, I don't think so, either, especially on the perimeter.
Yeah. So with that, that brings him down a little bit. And then while he has shown flashes of versatility in terms of being able to be a playmaker and such, he doesn't do it consistently enough for me to really recognize it yet. And
Hmm.
also, like all of this great play that he does really isn't amounting to much. Now, sure, you can blame it on a lot of things, maybe some injuries to teammates, interesting roster construction, but still, I can't help but make that an important note here that while Zion is great, he's just not getting much out of that greatness in terms of success.
Yeah, I think other than his defense, I think his shooting could also improve too. I think he's pretty undersized for a, I think most people see him as a power forward. I still think he's kind of undersized for a power forward.
Absolutely.
So really, I guess if you're going to play him at the small forward position, I think you need to know how to shoot at least somewhat from the 3-point line. And well, he's not really that much of a shooter yet.
Exactly. And then another thing about that is that you have Brandon Ingram,
Hmm.
and he's too skinny to play the four. So really, you're stuck with two guys who should be small forwards, but you can only do so much with both of them on the court.
Right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give him my number 22. It's going to be Donovan Mitchell. So, like I said, I don't have him too much higher than Rudy Gobert.
Okay.
I won't go into that because we've already talked about Donovan Mitchell,
Hmm.
the whole episode. Go ahead
Yeah.
and give your number
So
21.
yeah, for my number 21, that's actually where I have Rudy Gobert. And like I said, again, not too much higher than Mitchell. I have Mitchell at 24.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
just simply the matter of scoring efficiency. While again, he's no scorer. He had the highest field goal percentage in the league, so that counts for something in terms of efficiency. Defense, he's literally the entire defensive identity of the Jazz. He is the face of defense for the Jazz.
I thought you were about to say he is the face of the Jazz.
Oh no. I'm not
I was
gonna
like,
trigger everybody like that.
I was like, nah, I know you did not just say that. I know there are a bunch more Mitchell jerseys being sold than the Gobert jerseys,
Oh,
but
absolutely. But that's more so a matter of popularity, and
right,
offense is just far more popular than defense. So,
right. I know. It's just whenever I thought you were gonna say face. When I think of face, I think of like who's the guy that you're putting out there for the franchise, like to be excited over. You know what I mean?
hmm yeah, and that's why I made sure to say the face of their defense.
Okay. All right. For my number 21, I have Zion. We just
Okay.
talked about him.
Wow,
So
that's funny that you have him right there. Okay.
yeah. Okay. Number 20.
You see, my number 20, it hurts me to put him so low because I am a fan of this person, but I have Paul George at number 20.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it was a really tough spot. I feel like he could be anywhere from here up to as high as 17,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, his playoff inconsistency really brings him down. And I am factoring in playoff runs into these rankings. While I'm not going to count not making the playoffs against players for the most part, there are some exceptions. But I'm going to take it into account if they were in the playoffs. So, with that being said, Paul George, he did have some amazing games in the playoffs, but there were also a lot of questionable moments from him.
Okay. I mean that's reasonable. I have him higher, but yeah, I can still see where you're coming from. My number 20 is gonna be Zach LaVine.
Okay.
I think his scoring is pretty exceptional. I think with the Donovan Mitchell debate, I think even if you throw him into the Utah Jazz instead of Donovan Mitchell, I think he still play the same role.
Okay.
Okay, number 19.
My number 19 is Bradley Beal.
Okay.
And I came about this because if you really look at it, his numbers have gone up in terms of totals and such,
Hmm.
but his efficiency has not kept up with this increase. And so it really just begs the question, is he just a volume scorer to be a volume scorer? Or does he really have that extra notch that he can reach where he can be a super efficient volume scorer like some of these guys that I have above him? Because again, he's not more than a scorer. That is all he does on the court. So
Right.
I expect him to be a lot more just elite at it than he
Hmm.
is if I'm gonna put him any higher.
Okay. Well, for my number 19, I have Cat.
Okay.
Think the best shooting big man in the league. I think if he were just to stay healthy and the rest of his team stayed healthy also, that I think I could see them probably squeezing into a play-in game, maybe in like an 8 seed or so.
Okay.
I just think that health is one of the biggest things on the table that's up for them. Uh,
Okay. 18.
uh, okay, I'll go and give mine. I have Trae Young at 18.
You see, that's funny. I actually have Trae Young at 18 too.
Okay. Uh, you want to talk about him or?
I mean, we did talk about him a little bit, but there's not much to say. He's a really good scorer. He can shoot the ball exceptionally well. Now, while I do want to see more efficiency wise, the reason I can still put him so high despite his efficiency is because he's also an elite playmaker at the same time. One of the
Right.
top guys in assists. That can sort of overtake some of those negatives, including his horrible defense.
Okay. Yeah, and I wish he would be better on defense. I'd have him higher if he was even a little bit better on defense. But I mean, with someone such a small frame, it's just kind of hard to ask him to do anything on defense, really,
Yeah, yeah.
other than be a scrappy defender, which he kind of has been, but he
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
help too
sort of
much.
getting into that pesky defender type of role. So if he can just develop more into that and become a positive on defense, or at least a neutral on
Hmm.
defense, then yeah, I could see him moving up this list significantly.
Okay, for number 17, I have Bradley Beal.
Okay, for my number 17, I have DeMar DeRozan.
Oh, DeMar DeRozan in the top 25. Okay.
Yes, because I feel like he's gone under a lot of people's radars because he's on the Spurs and the Spurs aren't doing much.
Hmm.
But he has quietly become one of the most efficient scorers in the league. Now, granted, he can't shoot a 3-point shot to save his life.
Yeah.
But outside of that, he's one of the best free throw shooters. He's one of the best foul drawing players without just completely baiting fouls.
Hmm.
He's elite in the mid range. He's really good at getting to the rim. He's become a drastically improved playmaker while also keeping turnovers pretty low.
Hmm.
So, yeah, between all of that, I can overlook his only two negatives, which are he cannot shoot a three ball to save his life, and his defense is pretty bad to say the least.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I think DeRozan's a very good player. I just think that being his size, I think you should be able to play defense. He's what, 6'7",
Yeah.
and he was running the power forward position for most of last year, I think, for the Spurs.
Hmm.
I think you need to know how to play some defense if you're going to be that tall and that playing that position. Also, I think that he did score a lot last year because he was probably the one option, but he was probably also the two option and the three option. I mean, I don't. You have DeJounte Murray, but I don't think he's really much of a volume scorer.
Hmm.
Who else is on that team? Devin Vassell,
Yeah, Derek White. Yeah.
Derek
Now,
White.
but here's the thing though. He's been a really like scoring has always been his thing, even when he was
Hmm.
on the Raptors.
Hmm.
So you can't really look at the scoring numbers and be like, oh well, it's just because there's no one on the team who can score besides him, because he is doing it even when he did have other guys who could score.
Okay, yeah, I get your point. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, aside from him on that team, who would you have taken the second shot? Like, if DeMar DeRozan fouled out in the game seven and the game's tied with 5 seconds to go, who you haven't taken that shot?
You see, that's the thing. There's such a weird team that there's nobody that I could consistently say should get that second shot in that situation every time.
Hmm.
It just really depends on who has the hot hand that night.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would probably say DeJounte Murray, probably because I think he's probably the second best shooter. Well, no, he
I
probably is one of the best shooters on that team.
I would say the ball should definitely go into his hands because he's a really great playmaker.
Hmm.
So, yeah, with that situation, the ball should go into his hands, but I don't necessarily know if he should be the one to take the shot or if he should just create a shot for someone else.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to number 16.
Okay, for 16, I have Chris Middleton.
Okay. I'm surprised Middleton gets inside the top 25 for you. Well, he doesn't get in for me, but I just don't have him in because he's been inconsistent in the playoffs. Like me and you, whenever the playoffs were going on, the finals were going on, I know me and you talked about, is it going to be Drew Holiday? Um, is it going to be Drew Holiday today that doesn't show up, or is it going to be Chris Middleton? So, that's kind of where I'm coming from for the
Yeah,
Chris Middleton debate.
you see, with that being said, I definitely couldn't just leave him out of the 25 considering that I have Paul George in.
Hmm.
And so, considering that Paul George has been the definition of playoff inconsistency for the past 3 or 4 seasons,
Hmm.
I definitely can't just leave out Middleton because of his playoff inconsistency. But on top of his playoff inconsistency, regular season wise, he shows up practically every night.
Hmm.
He's one of the best shooters in the league on and off the ball. He's really good at being a secondary or tertiary playmaker when he needs to be. He plays good, solid defense. It's nothing exceptional, but you could put him on a second scoring option and get some good lockdown plays in there.
Okay. So my number 16, actually comparing him to PG is Paul
Mhm.
George.
Okay.
The reason I have Paul George on this list, obviously, I think he belongs in the top 25, regardless, and I
Mhm.
don't have Chris Middleton, is because I think Paul George was able to take over the Clippers when Kawhi went out,
Mhm.
as to where Chris Middleton had Drew Holiday and obviously Giannis,
Mhm.
whereas, who was the next best player after Paul George? I mean, Morris, because he was having a good season.
Yeah, Morris, maybe Terrence Mann.
Yeah, so I was like, he was able to lead them, to a couple wins, and I think that maybe he finally has found out how to not be so inconsistent in the playoffs. But I guess we'll have to see next year.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. In the previous seasons, it wasn't that he was inconsistent in the playoffs, it's that he was consistently bad in the playoffs. This year, he was just inconsistent.
Okay. Um. All right, number 15.
Okay, for my number 15, that's where I have Devin Booker.
Okay, it's funny because I had him at 15 too.
Okay, all right. Another Trey Young situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there isn't much to say about Booker. We all saw what he did in the finals and really in this entire playoffs run. He had his down games, so that's part of the reason why I can't put him any higher.
Right.
But also, his shooting can be questionable at times. At the end of the day, you're going to always respect his shot. But sometimes, even if you respect it, it's not just hitting that night. And those nights are pretty frequent, as we saw it happened in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I can't give him the versatility point because his defense isn't anything significant. And then also his playmaking, while if you just look at a plain box score number and you see, oh, he got 7 assists tonight, he got 10 assists tonight. A
Yeah.
lot of those nights, he's also getting 7, 8, 6, 9, 5 turnovers.
Hmm.
And it's just, you can't really give him that playmaking point when almost every time he's being a playmaker, he's turning the ball over worse than Harden and Westbrook.
Yeah, I think Devin Booker, he still has a lot of room to grow. I think he could probably even get inside maybe top 8 in the future.
Mm-hmm.
He's still, pretty young, and he can grow with DeAndre Ayton. So I think he has a lot of potential.
Okay.
All right, so number 14.
Okay. My number 14 is a pretty controversial one, but
Okay.
I actually have Zach LaVine up here.
Okay. I wouldn't say it's too controversial, but I probably wouldn't have him over Booker or Young.
You see, now here's the reason why I have him this high. Number one, despite being in a DeMar DeRozan, Bradley Beal type situation where he's
Hmm.
just by far the number one scorer on his team and the only real scoring threat on his team,
Hmm.
he was clearly one of the most efficient guys in the league this season. 50% from the field, 40% from three, 85% from the line, while also, scoring 20 plus points per game.
Hmm.
So with that, he gets a huge check mark in my most valued category, which is scoring efficiency.
Hmm.
Defense, I can give him a little bit of slack because his whole team was bad defensively. And you can't expect one player to make up for a team's bad defense. So even if he does want to lock in on that end. And then on top of that, like I said, he's by far the number one scoring option, and he's doing it efficiently at the same time. So
Okay, so I want to ask you, since you said that um, you won't take that much away from him because the whole team was bad defensively. Um, are you only ranking Bradley Beal lower because of his efficiency? Because Bradley Beal is not that much of a defender either.
yeah,
But at the same time, last year he said his team literally could not guard a parked car.
yes. Now here's where I'm also going to get into that. Number one, yes, Bradley Beal's efficiency is part of the reason why he's low, because he's just significantly worse efficiency wise than
Hmm.
Zach LaVine. Like, it's obvious who's the more efficient scorer there. And then on top of that, even though this isn't the NBA, Zach LaVine, his defense in the Olympics looked a lot better. So it
Hmm.
just goes to show that he clearly has that defensive potential in him, but he can't do it on the Bulls the way the team was constructed before.
Okay. Yeah, because Kobe White ain't helping you out on defense. So.
Exactly. With your backcourt partners, Kobe White, your your big man is Wendell Carter Jr. in the first half of the season, and Nikola Vucevic in the second half. Yeah, you can only do so much.
Yeah. All right. So number 13.
For number 13, I have Kyrie.
Nice, because I have Kyrie there too.
Nice. Yeah,
All right.
like with the Devin Booker situation, it's not much to say. We all know who Kyrie is.
Yeah. All right. So number 12.
For number 12, I have Jayson Tatum.
Okay. I for number 12, I have this one may be a little controversial,
Hmm.
but I have Anthony Davis.
Oh,
I have
wow.
Anthony Davis so low because the man doesn't know how to play his role. He will not slide over to the center position, and he's stubborn. And I think if he were to slide over to the center position, I think that would allow the team to have more success.
You know what? I can see that. I can see that. Because I truly don't understand why he refuses to play the five. It's not like he's unsuccessful when he does play the five. So
Hmm.
that doesn't make sense. It's not like he has a problem with protecting the rim. That's one of the things that he routinely does, even playing the four. So
Hmm.
that's not a problem. And then he plays the roll man in the pick and roll a lot. He goes for boards. So I truly don't understand what his whole issue is with wanting to be a power forward instead of a center and having to play with a traditional five.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You're tall enough, like you do everything a center should, and then on top of that, if you slide over there, you can add another shooter, and that just gives the team more spacing. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't quite.
But with that being said, though, so the reason you have him this low is simply because he's not being as effective as he could be.
That and just because he won't play his role. I value a player that understands his role on a team. I think that's one of the key things to a team being successful is everyone knowing their role.
Okay.
So I think he just brings the team down a little bit. I think if he slides over he will raise the ceiling of the team.
See, I don't know. I feel like he needs to be higher because even being stubborn in his role, we saw what they did in the bubble. So I have to give him credit for that.
Okay. Fake championship. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
Bubble
But
ring.
yeah. Um. All right. So number 11, I had Tatum, just one spot ahead of
Yeah.
yours.
And
Um.
my number 11 is Damian Lillard.
Okay.
Yeah, Damian Lillard, I have him out of the top 10, which is going to be controversial to some people, but I really don't feel like it should be.
Hmm.
But because really, if you look at him, he's a discount Steph Curry. That's probably a very rude thing to say, but it's the truth. He's by far his most threatening as a 3-point shooter, like Steph. You
Hmm.
want to guard him as soon as he passes half court, like Steph. But the only real difference is I haven't seen Damian Lillard be as much of an off-ball threat.
Hmm.
So it sort of nerfs him a little bit because like I said, I value versatility and I count being able to be an off-ball threat as versatility.
Right.
So because he doesn't do very much of that, that brings him down. He's not a good defender in the slightest, not even really a good team defender.
Hmm.
Um, and then really he does score inside the arc very efficiently. He's not inefficient inside the arc, but he's not this super threat inside the arc that he is outside of it.
All right. I get you. I mean, obviously his size contributes to that, but
Mm,
I just think that his clutch gene, is something
hmm
that I value a lot too in him. If you really need that last shot to be taken, which guy in the NBA are you gonna pick? I'd probably pick Damian Lillard.
Okay, okay. See, that's fair.
Um,
That's fair. I
I,
personally don't value the whole clutch gene thing that high
mhm,
because I feel like clutch is a very misunderstood thing, but we can get into that in a different episode.
okay. I want to ask you, did I give you my number 14? Because I don't remember saying this guy's name.
Wait, hold on. Who is it?
Jimmy Butler.
Okay, no, no, you didn't say that.
Okay, well, we won't talk about it, but I just, Jimmy Butler's my 14. So,
Okay, yeah, that's reasonable. That's reasonable.
okay, so number 10.
For number 10, I have Joel Embiid.
Nice, because I have him there too.
All right, okay. Yeah. Now, obviously, since I haven't said the name yet, I have Jokic higher. So
Right.
that's gonna be pretty obvious just based on the fact that, like I said, I while I'm not basing this on if the player was injured this past season or if they're currently injured, I'm still factoring in their likelihood of being injured. And the fact of the matter is, you need to game plan for injuries if Joel Embiid is on your team.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think that if I think he needs a better partner as a second star than Simmons. I just think that he needs a better shooter than Simmons. I think even if he gives up defense, I think they'll be a better team.
Okay.
All right, so number 9.
For my number 9, this is where I have AD.
Okay. My number 9, I have Lillard.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Couldn't
So
I couldn't drop him out of the top 10.
that's fair. That's fair. My reason that I have AD here is just like I said, scoring efficiency inside the arc. He's a threat. You need to watch out for him. I feel like his mid range is slightly overrated.
Hmm.
Actually, I feel like it's very overrated, but it's still something that you want to be mindful of if you see him going for it. He's obviously extremely dangerous whenever he's in dunking range of the rim.
Hmm.
As a 3-point shooter, I feel like his 3-point shooting is also very overrated, but he has those games where he can go off and they're not extremely infrequent.
Yeah, you see, like I have, like I said, the only reason I have AD lower is because of his role playing. I think he's a really exceptional player. Like, I mean, during the the bubble matchup, Rockets versus Lakers, he had me like, you know, facing like my you know face palming all the time because I was very upset
Yeah.
that he would always go off. But I get what you're coming from.
Okay. Okay.
Number 8.
For my number 8, I have James Harden, the one who
Okay,
betrayed us.
nice. I have him there too.
Okay. Yeah, Harden, he could be higher on the list, but at the end of the day, he's taken a greatly diminished role to go try and win a championship on the Nets. So I feel like that whole just taking a back seat now so that he can be more of a playmaker, it brings him down. But at the end of the day, we know who James Harden is.
Yeah, I still like him. I hope that once, if the Nets do win a championship, he decides to come back to Houston, maybe he's not as good as he once was, maybe even like a sixth man or something, and he wins with the new group of guys that we have. Maybe he'll give us a championship here.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to play a veteran role and not play that much, yeah, I'll take him then.
Hmm.
But as far as he's still a contributing piece, yeah, I don't think I want him on the team anymore.
Hmm.
Just because we have plenty of young guards and I want them to be our contributing pieces.
Right. So number 7.
Number 7, I have Luca.
Okay, nice, because I have Luca there too.
All right, so okay, so as you get to the top, things are becoming a lot more obvious.
Hmm.
And
Uh,
Luca, you see, I'm gonna go ahead and reveal my number 6 now, just to help with this explanation.
okay.
But my number 6 is Jokic.
My number 6 is Jokic too.
Okay, see, yeah. So I feel like these two guys are the exact same player, but
Hmm.
Jokic is 7 feet tall and Luca is faster. So you're really just kind of deciding, do I want my triple double from outside the arc shooting or from inside the arc post ups and some shooting too? And really, Luca does post ups as well. So they're practically the same player, but I give Jokic the edge. One, he's an Iron Man. Didn't miss a game this season. On
Hmm.
top of that, he's the MVP. That means a lot. And then while being in a similar situation to Luca, kind of, in the sense that he was playing without his second star for pretty much the second half of the season, I believe.
You said Jokic or Luca?
Jokic.
Okay, I thought you said
Whereas,
Luca. I was
oh
like,
no, whereas
does he?
Luca is just playing with a inconsistent second option.
Man, I wouldn't even consider
Yeah,
Porzingis a second option.
yeah. I mean, I don't think he's worthy of being one, but the fact is, he is on the Mavs.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but like I said, like I agree with you. I don't think
Yeah,
he's worthy of being a second option either.
yeah. So yeah, but with that being said, yeah, I mean, Jokic completely did not have his second option for the second half of the season, and
Hmm.
still led his team to a higher seed. So
Right.
yeah, I'd give him that edge.
All right. So number 5.
Number 5, I have a lot of people call him the GOAT, the King. I call him LeBron, his name.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like between his age, which is very obviously slowing him down, he's not moving around on the court as much. If you
Hmm.
watch games, you can tell that he's settling for jump shots a lot more. He's not as dominant of an inside presence. While it was a slight dip, he's not scoring the same way he used to in terms of just going out there and getting his points, just taking his points. And just overall, I feel like his defense has declined a little bit with that decline in mobility. And also, we've seen him get injured in 2 of the past 3 seasons.
Hmm.
So, also, it starts to beg the question, will injuries be a concern with him moving forward?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think I only have him one spot higher, but the
Mm-hmm.
reason I don't have him even higher, some like you said, people call him the GOAT, but his injuries this year obviously showed that. Well, I mean, obviously it's an injury, but I'm talking about he's no longer that LeBron we know that could just take over the game when he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
He no longer can just sit back in the first quarter, second quarter, chill out. If his team's not doing well, and he just goes Super Saiyan in the second half.
Yeah, he has to be a lot more selective of
Hmm.
when he wants to go off.
Yep. So for my number 5, I have Kawhi Leonard.
Okay, and that's who I have in my number 4. So
Okay.
we flip flop there. I
Yeah.
give Kawhi the edge because while he has declined as a defender due to his drastically increased offensive role
Hmm.
and on being on a less team oriented team like the Raptors were, yet he's still a very good defender with his decreased defense. He's one of the faces of efficiency. He can really go out there and get his shot from wherever he wants, and you have to respect it everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's really all I have to say about that. The only reason he's not in the debate for number 1 for me is just injuries.
Yeah, that's my reason too. I think he could be probably 2 or 3. Also, just the injuries are kind of holding him back right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so here's our top 3 now. You want
Okay.
to give it number 3?
Number 3, I have the Splash brother, Stephen Curry.
Okay. I have uh KD. I'm guessing
Okay.
he's your number 2.
Yep, that's my number 2, and Steph is your number 2 then.
Yep. And
Okay.
I'm glad we both have
Yeah,
a
we have a consensus number 1,
yep.
the Greek Freak, the Finals MVP, the All-Star Game MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, that's your guy right there. So I'll
Yeah.
go ahead and talk about him.
So, well, before I get to him, I want to slightly go over 3 and 2. Steph, he's still an absolute monster out there on the court. You have to respect him from every single spot on the floor, whether he has the ball in his hands or not. So that alone, just that really brings him high for me. It shows that you can plug him into practically any team and he can be effective in his role.
Hmm.
On top of that, efficiency, he's been one of the faces of efficiency for years now. He had a 50-40-90 season few years ago. He's still one of the most deadly 3-point shooters despite his insane 3-point volume. He can get to the free throw line and he's hitting at over 90% effortlessly, or effortlessly as some people like to say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's underrated as a playmaker because he's not a primary playmaker. So there's that. And then when the team is constructed around him properly, his defense isn't as bad as a lot of people claim that it is.
Hmm.
While he's not going to go out there and lock up any and everybody, he definitely has his times where he can stay in front of a guy pretty well. And obviously he plays the passing lanes well.
Yeah, I think Stephen Curry was all very undervalued as a player the last couple seasons just because the team, fell off.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously due to injuries, but before that, this is a right now list, but before that, that man gave me nightmares from 2015 to 2019. So,
Yeah. And yes, while he did give me nightmares when it came to him playing against the Rockets, any other time I was happily cheering that man on to go out there and be amazing. Because the time that I became a true basketball fan, like I still watched before, but I really became a hardcore fan when I got to high school, which was 2015.
mhm.
So I got into basketball deeply as his dominance was taking place. So I just couldn't help but fall in love with his play style.
Yeah, that's about right when the same time I fell in love with basketball is about, I remember the time that we were playing and then I forgot what you said. It was like super funny and you were just like traveling on purpose. Now you're just pushing everyone over.
Oh, oh yeah, I was probably making a joke about Harden then.
Probably. But yeah, that's our top 25. Do you want to talk about anyone specific?
Okay, I do want to touch on KD. KD
Okay.
is coming back from injury. He's greatly proven that Achilles meant nothing to him. He's still KD. And honestly, he's looking as great as he's ever looked. So there's that. And then I want to touch on Giannis, obviously, because he's our number one here. And he's my personal favorite player. I know it sounds like bias to have him at number one, but I promise you, I really took time here.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I put Giannis number one just because he was so dominant in the playoffs, and then obviously he had an amazing regular season. And I just think that his versatility on defense is unmatched to most
exactly.
players.
Yeah, I think the only person who even comes close to him in terms of defensive versatility is Ben Simmons,
Hmm.
which is funny because he's at the opposite end of this list exactly. But scoring efficiency, Giannis, while his inside the paint, like painted area
Hmm.
volume has gone down, his efficiency in there has not dipped at all, really. He's still one of the most terrifying people to see inside the paint.
Hmm.
He's improved his sort of mid-range fade area. He's still not much of a three-point threat, but who really cares about that when dude takes one step inside the arc and he's already at the goal and dunking on three people?
Right.
So there's that. If you look at this playoff run, he's drastically improved himself as an off-ball player. He's become even though he's always been a really good passer, he's become a much more savvy passer, so to speak.
Hmm.
He's hitting a lot more difficult passes. He's by far the best defender in the league. I know I already touched on his defense, but I think he's by far the best defender in the league. And then just to top it off, the intangible stuff that he does, like he does not give up. He doesn't care. He wants to win, and he will go out and take that win.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's dunking on everyone. If I don't care how tall I am, how big I am, if I see Giannis, running full steam at me, I'm making it a business decision and moving out of the way. I'm not about to go on someone's wall and be a poster. So, but I'm glad we can agree on a number one player in the NBA.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear until somebody comes out next season and proves him wrong.
I don't think it'll happen. I think I mean unless Curry has an even better season, but that's gonna be hard to top with the amazing season that he had this year.
Yeah, so I don't see Steph taking the number one spot. I really don't. I think the
Hmm.
only person who could really do it is KD, maybe, but he'd have to improve his defense to really get that spot for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to be the end of the episode. If you enjoyed the podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe. Any last comments, Isaiah?
Don't forget, share this with your friends. Leave any sort of feedback, positive or negative, in the comments. We're always looking to improve. And I hope you all enjoy this episode and come back for more.
Yep. All right. See y'all the next one.